All right, here we go. Wednesday, May 6th. Welcome to On the Horizon. I'm Mike. This is Eric. Today we're going to be talking about why you ought to think like a publisher and how thinking like a publisher can really drive content creation in your business. So, make sure we're recording. We are. Good. Okay. So, let me kind of give you some context to this entire conversation. First of all, if you think like you're a magazine and you're going to publish a magazine, then all month long you're planning for the articles, the pictures, the stories that are going to be in that upcoming magazine. And your day is consumed with figuring out what those stories are, creating those stories, giving those stories to reporters, editing those stories, writing those stories, putting pictures to those stories, laying out your magazine. You're really thinking about how you're going to deliver that content to your readers. Now think about if you had an online property and you were also trying to create enough content to feed your visitors, your viewers, your subscribers on a regular basis. It becomes a massive undertaking. Now, those organizations are designed to create that content. We as businesses are not designed to create that content. But if we start thinking like those kinds of businesses, we will pretty soon start to create the level of content required to engage our audiences and drive leads. And let me give you a quick example. So at Square 2, I blog twice a week. We try to publish one new piece of content at least once a month. We are working on creating videos that go along with that content and support our website. We're doing a show like this, which also fits the content profile. We are creating stories related to the successes of our clients and publishing those as case studies as well. So right there you have a small microcosm of the amount of content a business needs to create. And when I tell you that that's not even enough content, that's just the amount of content we can support, you'll start to get the idea of how much content is required. So what this session is really about is how to engage your employees and your team members to help you create all this content, because it's virtually impossible for one person in a marketing department or three people in a marketing department, or even if you have one person who's a writer who's dedicated to creating content, and even if you have an agency, to afford the amount of content required to really ramp up your content marketing efforts, it becomes very challenging. But if you can engage your entire team, your entire employee base, or a good portion of your employee base to write content, to create content, videos, infographics, documents, research, tip sheets, there's so many different kinds of content, you can really start to fuel this machine and generate the amount of content you need to produce the kinds of leads you're looking for and the kinds of new customer results from that content marketing effort. So I know, Eric, you've looked into this idea of how do we engage the entire team to be part of this content machine. Why don't you share some of what you learned about how we can help our people do that?
Sure. Remember, the whole concept of our show, On the Horizon, is to look at what's coming next. So this is a great natural breaking point to gather your team and talk about, hey, this is what we're going to do to really bring our game to the next level as we come out of this pandemic. So it's a great story that you can share with your team about why we're all engaging and why we might be behaving a little bit differently. The question you have to ask yourself and of your teammates is, why wouldn't you do it? You have an army of brand experts at your disposal. You have people in your organization that know better than anybody about certain aspects of what you deliver to clients. Get them to share. And if you want to consider that on the framework of your own experiences as a consumer, you want to hear from the employees of a company. If you're standing in the aisle at Lowe's and you don't know which piece of something to buy, and the gentleman or woman comes up and says, oh, I've used that before, it works much better than the other one, you're like, oh, thank you so much. You just totally saved my day. That's the kind of content we want, because your brand experts internally can give that same advice to people on the street. So how do you get started doing something like this? Well, number one, as we say on pretty much every episode, it has to be strategy before tactics, which means that your leadership team has to lay out a very high-level strategy of what you want to accomplish with your content creation. Then, once you've locked down your strategy, then you have to let that be known throughout the entire employee base. So some training might be involved. Hey, here's what we're going for. Here are the do's, here are the don'ts, here's what we're expecting. Here's the quantity and the timeline that we're looking for. Let everybody in on the same page. So now you're ready to get started. Well, the easiest way to get started is to have your team members relay real life experiences, because they're all touching clients and prospects. And it would be great if they could get them into the content creation mode by simply relaying those stories that they had with a great client. Oh, had a great meeting with a client yesterday. You know, they asked an interesting question. Well, that could be converted into a blog post or even a small video. So by engaging them to relay back or to be the conduit between you and your clients or prospects, now you've eased them into it in the absolute easiest way. Now you have to really reinforce what's in it for them, because if they're being reporters out there on the street and bringing back this information, they say, why do I do that? I wasn't hired to do that. I'm not a content creator. Well, we could talk about things like creating content helps build skill sets. You're a better writer, you're a better listener, you're a better relationship person with clients and prospects. So that would improve it for them. Also, confidence, right? I got up in front of the entire company and I relayed a story about what happened to me on the job today. Those are also skills that get to be improved. So you have to really encourage them to understand this is about them as well. You also want to encourage those team members to realize that all the pieces of content they create are part of their personal brand. When they're posting those things to LinkedIn and they're talking about, hey, I created this great video with my team today and I posted it on social media, you created that video. That's an asset that lives with the employee or a team member forever. Now, you want to also be cool about this, and you want to weave the fact that everybody in our company creates content as part of our culture and really starts with the hiring process. You have to set the expectation when you're bringing on new team members. Guys, we all create content here. So here's how we do it. Here's our guidelines. Here's what you should be looking for. Give it a try. So once again, it might be a little hard to transition your existing employee base that wasn't hired under those auspices to now start to transition. But all new folks should be under the expectation that they create content. Also, you want to put something in their pay plan for that, right? So a good way to incentivize them is, hey, if you do X, you get Y. It doesn't have to be an addition to their base compensation, but little bonuses and awards. When our team does something right, they get cash. Well, lately, because we're a no contact company, they get a Amazon gift card digitally. But we're always rewarding them with little things to tell them, one, thank you, and also to remember, hey, if I do this piece of content, I'll get a little something out of the deal. You also want to make sure that you're engaged with reviews, because your team members are directly related to how good the reviews are for your company. And you should reward them for really great reviews. Highlight it. Hey, Mary was mentioned by name on this 5 out of 5 star review on Google Reviews. Mary, great job. By the way, here's a $25 Amazon gift card. Do it again next week. You also, now that you got your folks creating content, you want to make it super easy for them to submit it. Don't make it like it's a 6-step process to get approved. Create a Dropbox, have them throw all their content in there and say, hey, we sort through every week. We find what's most appropriate or what's close to being finished, and that's how we do it. So it should be very easy to submit. Take away any friction from your employees that they're concerned about submitting it. Don't have the manager review it and then the manager's manager review it and then finally get submitted. Throw it all in and we'll figure it out at the end of the day. And then finally, the last tip that you should consider is the tracking and the analysis of what that content did. If Tony and Frank created a great video in the warehouse that got 542 views on YouTube, you want to show them that the efforts they put forth to create that content are actually resulting in real results for the company. So keep a running track of where you post that content, what kind of action it's getting, and then report that back to the team so they can see the connection between their efforts and actual results for the company. Mike, I hope that helps our viewers kind of get started on this content journey. Back to you.
Yeah, so if you want to take Eric's comments a little bit further, then I want to just lean into this idea of thinking like a magazine publisher, because that puts a nice box around what we're going to do from a content creation perspective. Every month a magazine has a theme. Could be fashion one month, could be travel the next month, could be widgets or gadgets the month after that, depending on what magazine we're talking about. But you need to come up with some themes for your content creation also. And by giving your team that box, it'll help them know what to write about, and it'll help you organize that content into what could ultimately become campaign themes as well. So for instance, if we were going to share our content strategy with you guys, we might say the month of May is all about video marketing. So we're writing blog articles about video marketing. We're posting an ebook on how to do videos at home. We're creating our own videos with tips on how to create some of these videos. We might be doing an infographic on the consumption of video across the marketplace. We might have some stats about how people are responding to video and how well it works in the sales process. So if our entire month of May, as an example, is all about video, and we share that with our teams, then our teams can help create some of this information as well, and we can focus it really effectively. Maybe in June, we're going to go towards getting ready for trade shows, which might not be a great example today, but event marketing or paid media or social media or like whatever, the amount of topics you can come up with for your business is unlimited. And when you're only thinking about it from a perspective of monthly content creation, coming up with 12 themes for the entire year is not that hard. It could be about how we deliver to our clients. It could be how we check in with our clients and make sure they're happy. It could be innovative products coming out in the market. It could be innovative services that are coming in the market. What I want you to think about is making sure that this content isn't salesy. And if you go back to your magazine example, the magazines don't sell. The way the magazines sell is they have those advertisements in the magazine that takes care of the selling. The magazine publishers are all looking for educational content that are going to engage readers and add value to those readers. And that's how you want to think about this content creation exercise across your organization. So no, I don't want a product update on our product. That would not fit the bill of educational and informative. You can find other ways to share that information with your clients and prospects. But I might want an article that talks about the top 10 things I'm looking for in products like that. So let me educate the clients around product selection. And between us, because we're friends, that could lean towards your product as being a better choice than the competitors, but you're not overtly publishing a feature set for your new product. So that balance is really important from a content creation perspective also. To Eric's point, yes, you want to collect all that content, but you're going to need somebody that's kind of overseeing that effort. A lot of these people might be first-time writers.
If I could stop you there, Mike, Christina Hooper has a great question that goes right to what you're talking about. Do you end up with duplicate content, or do you have the team pitch their content ideas before they start on them their own?
Right. So a little organization is going to go a long way. You don't want people wasting their time writing about the same thing. So potentially you could get them to submit ideas. I want to write about this. I had an idea for a video. I think this would be a cool infographic. Kind of like if you met with your writers before you were going to get ready to start working on the magazine, they would know that the magazine's theme is cool places to travel, and they're coming to that meeting to pitch you ideas on what they want to do in the magazine for cool places to travel. You also know that the best ideas generally get the best placement in the magazine. The person who has the coolest idea might more likely get the cover, right? So this does kind of incent your team to be creative and come up with cool ideas, because the better their idea, the more likely they would be to maybe have more prominent position in your content marketing efforts for that month. Collect those ideas, dole them out. Again, you know how much content you need, so you don't want people working on content that's not going to make it into any of your campaigns. Again, you don't want them wasting time on content creation. That's a fast track to getting them disengaged. So organize them around your theme, give them their assignments, let them work on their assignments, to Eric's point, understanding that they all might not be perfect. Collect those assignments, and then you're going to need some help. You're going to need a professional editor more than likely. You're going to need someone to look over this content and clean it up to make sure that it's ready for prime time. You're also going to need someone that's looking at this content from an SEO perspective. So you may give some people some guidance around what they're writing. Hey, try to use these keywords, but in reality, they may not have used those keywords in exactly the appropriate way from an SEO perspective. So you're going to need someone to look over this from an SEO perspective. And you may need someone to look over this from a social media perspective too. You want to make sure that there's opportunities to use pieces of that content in social media. So we typically call that socializing and search optimizing the content. When we get content from clients who want our help with it, we tend to edit it, make sure it's going to be socialized properly, and make sure that it's SEO optimized as well. So those are three kind of overlay exercises you're probably going to have to provide when your team starts providing you this content. You then figure out how to sequence it, make sure it's all designed properly, written properly, and then you're integrating that into your campaigns. And before you know it, you have a really nice package of content that you can roll out every single month, and it's thematic and it's rich enough to drive engagement with your clients and prospects. And I can tell you, hands down, guaranteed, if you took nothing away from the first 2.5 weeks that we've done the show, the more content you publish, the more visitors you will get to your website, the more leads you will generate for your sales team, and the more high quality sales opportunities those leads will create for your entire business. So this is an engine that you really need to think really strongly about. How do I ramp this up? A lot of clients come to us and help us ramp them up because they either don't want to engage their team or don't feel like they have the skill sets to do this, but this engine is critical to driving leads on the horizon.
Yeah, I mean, it really goes back to buyer behavior, Mike, right? So if you think about it, we talked earlier in this series about how 90% of the people that typically visit your website are doing research. They're not reaching out to you and saying, hey, I'd like to spend $50,000 a year on a software product, right? They're doing their research because big ticket items, complex sales, long sales cycle requires research. Well, the content that you put out is helping them in their research. And I will ask you this one, or I will challenge you with this one comment. If you're not putting out content to help people on their buying journey, who are they listening to? The competition who's putting out that content. So this is a really great competitive advantage when your team is answering questions, being thought leaders, making sure that the content is out there in the places where people are looking for it. And by having your team generate more than the average company's amount of content, you're jumping into that first position as the trusted advisor for people that are helping you on, or helping prospects on their journey to buy, and not just being quiet and waiting for someone to happen to find them on the internet. And that's where you have to understand that it all ties together with this buyer's journey that we're so passionate about. Because like I said, if you're not talking, they're listening to the other guy.
Yeah, we also talked a while ago about the cyclonic nature of the buyer journey, how inundated people are with content. And it's not just the kind of content we've been talking about today. If I'm talking to Eric off the cuff and I mentioned something to him about a product I bought, that's content. I'm influencing his decision about something that he might be doing. So our prospects are getting influenced by all kinds of people. And the nature of the cyclonic buyer journey is for us to be proactively trying to control that chaos. And by us proactively publishing content, we get a better chance to proactively control that content. So all of this ties together as you start thinking about how you might want to do things differently going forward.
Hey, Mike, doesn't it tie to the story about the cherries? Mike, being a burgeoning home bartender, was complaining about regular maraschino cherries, and I told him about these amazing cherries that I get on Amazon that are soaked in this great sauce, and before you know it, he's now a fan of that. Well, if I was that cherry company, I'd be putting out lots of videos about how these cherries are better. I do the taste test about the cherries. I would do the infographic about how maraschino cherries versus the cocktail cherries are made. And all of a sudden, you have a bunch of people that are now trapped at home ordering these new cherries online, something they didn't maybe know about before.
Tons of recipes for drinks with cherries in it.
Yeah, and it's simple content. If I am the cherry manufacturer, as a good example, I don't know how we got down this road, but if I'm the cherry manufacturer, all those people on my company making the cherries know, oh yeah, if you use these kinds of cherries, it's much better. And by the way, we leave the stems on in the first part of the production process because it makes them a little sweeter. Well, these are the kinds of things that people eat up, no pun intended, when they are researching their cocktail cherries.
Yeah, so in the last minute, what we want you to take away, plan out your schedule. Like I said, think like a magazine publisher. I'm going to create this kind of content in May, this kind of content in June, this kind of content in July. Explain to your teams why they need to be engaged and how it helps them, and then put those processes in place to start to collect those ideas, curate that content, and create a real robust schedule of what you're going to publish, when you're going to publish it. Before you know it, you'll have an amazing content marketing machine. You'll have amazing inflow of new visitors to your website and significantly more leads than you might have had before. So thank you so much for talking about content marketing, and we really hope you start thinking like a publisher. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us for 20 minutes today on the Horizon. Have a really great rest of your day.